So before this video starts, I would just like to tell you all that currently on Steam there are a whole bunch of Star Wars games on sale for May the 4th that are 75% off, which means that most Star Wars games, if not all of them on Steam, are currently $5 or less. So if you want to pick up some good Star Wars games that appear on this list, or ones that don't, then definitely go and get some. And it lasts from now until May 8th, so go check that out and go get yourself some good games. Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today is the first top 10 video since I started doing videos again, which is exciting. So today I'm going to be remaking a list that I did quite a long time ago, which is my top 10 Star Wars games. And the reason I'm remaking it is because my opinion on some games have changed, and sort of the placement of them and all of that sort of thing. And I've also have more things to say about them, and I have played a couple of more games that I would like to talk about in this video. So first things first, I do have 3 honorable mentions, and usually I only have 1 or 2, but the reason why I have 3 is because one of them is an actual Star Wars game. The other one isn't really a game, but it is something that I'd like to mention, and the third one is a mod for a non-Star Wars game that I would like to talk about. So first we're going to talk about the actual Star Wars game, which is Star Wars The Old Republic, which is the MMO that was released in like 2011 and it's still going on. I have actually played The Old Republic quite a bit. I would say at least like between 20 and 30 hours I've played it. Most of it I spent doing a Jedi playthrough, I think Jedi Guardian, I think it's called. And I really enjoyed it, actually. I would like to get back into it, but unfortunately for some reason it said something went wrong with my account and it deleted my character, which really annoyed me because I had spent a long time doing that. So then I started playing Sith Warrior, I think. And that was kind of cool as well, and then I just kind of stopped playing it. So it is fun, I do enjoy it. I think it's not a really great for being a sequel to the Knights of the Old Republic games, but as a Star Wars game, as especially an online Star Wars game, it is definitely an enjoyable one, and it's a good time, and I recommend that if you're a fan of Star Wars or the Old Republic era, that you should at least try it, because even if you can't get totally into it like me, you will still probably enjoy your time with it. The next one I'm going to be talking about is the Star Wars Conquest mod for Mount & Blade, specifically Mount & Blade Warband. It probably doesn't make a whole big difference which version I'm talking about, because they are probably about the same. I really love Mount & Blade and the way it does its RPG sort of things, and how it's completely open-ended and everything, and I really was interested in how a Star Wars version of that would play out, and eventually someone did come along and make a Star Wars mod for it, and it turned out quite well. Of course, you have several different factions you can join up with, and there's tons of planets you can go to, some of them more detailed than others. It's not expansive in the way that something like Skyrim is, where it's a big open world that you can completely explore, because the way Mount & Blade is set up is an overworld map, and you just kind of go from place to place, and when you get to certain cities, or in this case planets, you can walk around through them like a very small map. But yeah, the RPG elements are what really make Mount & Blade, and the Star Wars mod for it is pretty cool. So if you have Mount & Blade and you like Star Wars, I would definitely recommend checking out this mod. It's completely free, it's on the Steam Workshop, and you can also get it elsewhere on the internet if you don't want to get it on Steam Workshop for whatever reason. So definitely check it out if you're a Star Wars fan. So the next one I'm going to talk about is the one that's not really a game, but I still wanted to mention it, and that is Trials on Tatooine, for VR. I'm not exactly sure what systems it's out for, but I know it's on the Vive because that's what I played it on. For those of you who may not really understand what VR is, it's basically you put on this headset type of thing where it's a screen in front of your eyes, and then you have controllers, and basically you have one controller in each hand, and the camera is a first-person view of whatever character you are in the game, and you can actually move around in the game world and interact with things. And for anybody who hasn't tried it before, I highly suggest that you try it out sometime if you're able to, because it is kind of amazing. But Trials on Tatooine was very special for me because, first of all, I think it was the first VR thing that I did as far as like an actual game. I had tried it out once before when it was just kind of, you had the headset on and it played things around you, so like it looked like you were falling down stuff and things going by you and whatnot, and that was really cool. But this and some other VR games really got me into VR because I had heard about VR and how cool it was and everything, and how you are basically put into the game world and all of that, but it's really hard to put into words how incredible it is unless you actually are doing it. So for those of you who have not been able to try it out, definitely do if you get the chance. But anyways, Trials on Tatooine is a very cool experience, and basically what it is it has the opening crawl in front of you, and then it drops you down on Tatooine. You look all around you and it's Tatooine. The Millennium Falcon comes out of the sky and lands next to you, and you feel like the Millennium Falcon is huge. You just really get a good sense of the scale of it, because in the movies you see what it's like compared to a human being, but you never really experience how big and cool it is. And in this you do, and it's really awesome. And then the other highlight of Trials on Tatooine is that R2-D2 comes out, which is awesome, and he gives you a lightsaber because stormtroopers come along and they start shooting you, so you get a lightsaber. It was a really awesome experience for me, being a huge Star Wars fan and everything. So if you have a chance, go check out VR and try it out sometime if you can, and definitely try out Trials on Tatooine if you ever get the chance, because it is one of the coolest Star Wars experiences I've ever had. So after all of that, we come to the actual top 10 list. So starting out with number 10, we have Empire at War, which is a strategy game, and this moved down actually from where I had it in my original list. I think it was like number 8 or 9 or something like that. Now it's number 10. I do really enjoy this game. I enjoy every game on this list for one reason or another, but I just can't really get into strategy games that much for some reason. I feel like I should, but I just can't. But anyways, Empire at War is a really good game, and it's a good strategy game, and I think that Star Wars is perfect for a strategy game because of just the whole concept of it, and Empire at War really pulls that off well. And if you haven't already, I would definitely recommend playing multiplayer with a friend or two, because while I couldn't really get into it on the single player, I absolutely love playing the multiplayer, whether it be against a friend or playing with them to defeat an AI opponent. So Empire at War gets the 10th spot on the list. So number 9, I'm cheating a little bit because it's 2 games from the same series, but I like them both for pretty much the same reasons, and that is the Jedi Academy and Jedi Outcast games. So some of you watching this might be thinking, why are these so low? Because these are really good games, and I would say, yeah, they are pretty good. But the thing with these is, I could never get into the single player for some reason. I played Jedi Outcast for a bit, and I don't know if it was just because I found it too difficult or I just got too bored, and I just completely lost interest in the single player, and pretty much the same thing happened in Jedi Academy. There were some cool levels, but it really didn't hold my interest that well. However, where this game really shines is in the multiplayer aspect. I didn't really play very much actual multiplayer. I usually just played with AI bots, and even then it was really fun. Plus, I would be remiss if I didn't include the lightsaber combat, because that is definitely one of the most well-known aspects of the Jedi Knight games, is the combat, which is really good. But anyways, if you can get into the single player of this game, or even just the multiplayer, I would definitely recommend that you try them out. And yeah, it's pretty fun, and the multiplayer is great. The single player, while I couldn't get into it, I can still acknowledge was pretty decent, even though for some reason I couldn't get into it. Maybe you will, so definitely try it out. And yeah, that's number 9. So number 8 and 7 are almost interchangeable for me, but I'm going with the list order that I have right here. So number 8 is LEGO Star Wars 3: The Clone Wars. LEGO Star Wars: The Clone Wars is a fantastic game. It is one of the best LEGO games, in my opinion. Really, the Star Wars LEGO games in general are really good. I haven't actually played The Force Awakens, but I have heard some good things about it. But at least the 2 Star Wars LEGO games that I have played are fantastic. It's got a lot of really fun levels and a lot of good characters that you can use. I'm also going to mention that I have actually not watched the entirety of the Clone Wars. I've only seen the first season and a couple episodes of the second season. I am planning on watching the rest of it sometime, and that might have influenced why this is lower on the list, but just looking at it by itself, it is a really good game and a really good LEGO game, and I would definitely recommend it if you like Star Wars games, or LEGO games, or LEGO Star Wars games, or if you just like the Clone Wars and would like to play an adaptation of that is just a fun game. So number 7 is going to be LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. In my old list, I had Clone Wars as better than Complete Saga, but after playing Complete Saga a little bit more, I actually really love it. And me saying that I really love this game just really speaks for the quality of the rest of this list. But anyways, Complete Saga is a fantastic game. It is probably like the second best LEGO game ever made, in my opinion, as far as like the licensed ones, because there are a couple of others that do hold a special place in my heart. But as far as the licensed LEGO games that most people know, this is one of the best. It does a good job of translating the Star Wars movies into a LEGO game. Plus, it's out on pretty much everything now. You can get it on PC, it's out on Wii, it's out on Xbox 360, PS3, plus it's out on Android and iOS. It's just a really good game, and if you haven't played it, I would suggest that you at least try it out. It's like $7, I think, on Android or iOS. So if you want to be able to take it with you wherever you go, there's your answer. And yeah, really fun Star Wars game, one of the best LEGO games, and overall just a really good time. Next up, at number 6, this game is probably lower than what I actually think of it. I will be getting to why it's lower on this list later on. Number 6 is Star Wars Battlefront, and when I say Star Wars Battlefront, I mean the original Star Wars Battlefront. I have not played the new one, but I have heard very mixed opinions on it. The original Battlefront, I think, still holds up as a really enjoyable game. There are so many parts of it that I just love, like the maps. The maps, I think, are much stronger than Battlefront 2's maps. If I was doing it completely based on how I feel about the game as itself, it would probably be like number 4, but it is not, because I'll get into it later. But for now, number 6, Battlefront original, really good. Go play it if you haven't. Next up at number 5, the halfway point, is Star Wars The Force Unleashed. The first one, not the second one, because the second one, while not terribly, horribly just bad, is still not that good and not as good as the first one. However, the book is actually pretty decent, so if you want to get more of the Force Unleashed story without playing the incredibly repetitive video game version, you can just read the book, and that is actually really good. And the Force Unleashed book for the first one is also good, so if you like books, go read those, because they are actually surprisingly great. So Force Unleashed is a very special Star Wars game to me, because it is one of the first ones that I ever played. I think the first ones that I played were Lego Star Wars Complete Saga and Clone Wars Lightsaber Duels, both on the Wii, and I played those and I really liked them. And then I played Force Unleashed and I was like, this is kind of amazing. So I do own Force Unleashed on both PC and the Wii, and as much as I do enjoy the PC version, I would say that the Wii version is a little bit better. The graphics aren't as good, but I think the extra levels are better. And the gameplay itself, I think, is better just because it involves you actually moving around the Wii remote. Along with the gameplay, there is also the story for The Force Unleashed, which is, in my opinion, one of the best Star Wars stories ever. If you happen to not be interested in the game, like I said, you can read the book, which expands on the story. And even if you have played the game, if you enjoyed the story, I would suggest you go read the book. And I know I've talked a lot about the books for Force Unleashed, but still, they're really good, and I would highly suggest you check them out. So, Force Unleashed as a whole, really good, and it gets the number 5 spot. Number 4 is Republic Commando. Republic Commando is probably one of the more unique Star Wars games that's out there. It is very short, unfortunately. That's one of my biggest gripes with it, is that it is quite short. It has 3 planets and like 5 levels per planet, and it probably would take about 7 hours total to complete if I had to guess off the top of my head. I have no idea how accurate that is, but I would say 7 or 8 hours, probably no more than 10 at the most. So it is very short, but it is very enjoyable, and it is a really, really good Star Wars story as well. And even though the story isn't like the main focus of it, the story elements that are present are really good, and the characters are also really good. In Republic Commando, you play as a team of 4 clone commandos, and of course Republic Commando is a game, so the gameplay as well as the characters is very well done. It utilizes squad commands, which could have been a little more extensive, but they work fine, and they allow you to tell your squad to take certain positions, like you can tell them to go take a sniping position or any other sort of place that you want them to go to. Plus, sort of another thing that's not quite as important, but something that I still really enjoyed, is the music. And that is something that I've enjoyed across a lot of Star Wars games, including Force Unleashed as well, is the music, which is really, really good, and it fits the tone of the game very nicely. So Republic Commando is number 4. Number 3 is Battlefront 2, the original one, again, not the new one that's coming out sometime later this year. So when I was talking about the original Battlefront, I said that it would be higher if it were not for reasons that I'd get into later, and now is later, so I'm going to talk about why I have Battlefront 2 up here and Battlefront 1 isn't right up with it. And the reasoning for that is because, like I said earlier, maps in Battlefront 1 are vastly superior to the majority of the maps in Battlefront 2. However, you can use mods to bring the maps from Battlefront 1 into Battlefront 2, which completely fixes that problem. And that's pretty much why Battlefront 1 is number 6, because while the maps are really great, you can get the superior gameplay in Battlefront 2 while still having the good maps from Battlefront 1. Even by itself, though, Battlefront 2 definitely deserves to be in the spot, because it is really, really good. It's one of the best Star Wars games, hence why it's in the top 3 in the first place, and the gameplay is really fun. It's very fast and frantic and exciting, which is really nice. The multiplayer as well, I've played with a couple of my friends, and even though most of the time I get completely slaughtered, I still have a lot of fun, and it is really enjoyable. And like I said about modding the Battlefront 1 maps into it, there are tons of mods for Battlefront 2, which really increased the longevity of it for me, because if there weren't mods I would not have played it nearly as much as I have. There are so many. There's like Clone Wars mods, there's mods for The Force Awakens, there are mods out there for Rogue One, there's mods out there for the Old Republic. There's even a Mass Effect mod, which is really cool because I love Mass Effect as well. There's so many out there that I think even if you can't get into the default regular Battlefront, you can find a mod that will pique your interest and that you'll enjoy. So Battlefront 2 not only gets number 3 because it has really good gameplay and all of that, but also because it has a really great modding community that really helped keep it alive. So now we come to the top 2, and most of you who have seen other lists of Star Wars games probably know what the top 2 are already going to be, and many of you who have already seen my original list probably know what the top 2 are going to be. So number 2 is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Knights of the Old Republic 2 is in many ways better than Knights of the Old Republic 1, although I do personally think they are about the same. I did have to put them in an order, and the second one ended up being number 2, so now you know what number 1 is, but you probably did anyway. Going into this list, you were like, I bet Knights of the Old Republic is number 1. In my opinion, the planets, for the most part, aren't as enjoyable as Knights of the Old Republic 1, which kind of takes off points. But it does have really good characters and a really, really interesting story that not only is it just a good story by itself, but it also looks at the Jedi and the Force in a way that not many Star Wars, really anything, does. And it really looks at things less like it's just good and bad and light and dark, and talks about how there's like the gray section in the middle, and it's really interesting because in the movies and everything it's like these guys are good, these guys are bad, and these guys are completely good, these guys are completely bad, whereas Knights of the Old Republic 2 really kind of plays around with that and does some really unique things with those ideas that are really enjoyable and very interesting to think about. However, one thing I am going to warn you about is the beginning, because the beginning of this game, which takes up the first 2 hours or 3 hours or so, I'm not sure if they actually do, but for me they did, on Paragus, is absolutely terrible. But don't let that keep you from playing the rest of it, because the rest of it is really good, even though the beginning on Paragus, and even to an extent Telos, is very boring and not that fun. The rest of it is really great, and once you get that past that section, it really picks up. And I would recommend that if it is your first time playing it, that you play through those sections, but after that, if you want to replay it, there are mods out there which allow you to skip Paragus and Telos if you want to. And I would recommend checking those out if you just really cannot stand to play through Paragus another time like me. However, besides that, it is a fantastic game with fantastic characters, a fantastic story, and it's one of the few Star Wars games that really makes you think about the way the Force is portrayed and the way the Jedi and the Sith are portrayed and all that sort of thing. It is really great, and you should check it out, especially if you like the first one. If you just generally like Star Wars, I would say that this and Knights of the Old Republic 1, you should definitely check them out. So then we come to number 1, which of course is Knights of the Old Republic. I have talked about this game so much on this channel in the past, and those of you who have watched my videos for really any length of time probably know how much I love Knights of the Old Republic. I used to say it's my favorite game, but now it's just slightly beat out by Mass Effect 2. But it is still definitely up there, and it will always have a very special place in my heart. And even though, like I said, I would probably say that both Knights of the Old Republic games are about the same in terms of how good they are, I would have to say the first one if I was choosing. Mostly because of two things. The first thing is the planets are more enjoyable. Second one is just because the opening is a lot more bearable. Because even though Terrace is not super great, and most of the time I do skip it because there are mods that allow you to skip Terrace, when I play through it, it is nowhere near the levels of Paragus and Telos bad. Not that Telos is horrible, but it is definitely not the best way to start a game as great as Knights of the Old Republic. But anyways, if you have heard anything about Knights of the Old Republic, you probably know why it's number one anyway. It's got great characters, it has a great story, it has a great plot twist, which I'm not gonna spoil even though the game is like 15 years old. Good music as well. Both Knights of the Old Republic games have really great music. Planets are nice, really nice looking as well, even though the game in terms of graphics has not aged the greatest. It still looks nice if you look past the graphics and just look at the way everything looks, if that makes any sense. It is also out on Android, and iOS unfortunately is not compatible with either my phone or my tablet. But I have heard pretty good things about the Android port, and I would assume it's the same for iOS. So check that out if you're interested in it, or you can just get it on PC. On Steam for like 10 bucks. You can get both of them for 10 bucks, which is, in my opinion, a really great deal. But even if they go on sale for like 5 bucks, that's even better. Definitely check out the Knights of the Old Republic games and all the rest of the games on this list if they sounded interesting to you, because they are like the best of the best Star Wars games that I have played. So anyways, that concludes this video. I have no idea how long it'll be edited, but I've been recording for about 50 minutes right now, which is really weird because usually it's only like half an hour at most. But yeah, so I'll probably be editing this one quite heavily. Anyways, that is the end of this video. Hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like and a comment telling you what you thought. What is your favorite Star Wars game? How would you rank this? How would you change the list around? Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See you guys next time, and may the Force be with you always.